what we've been studying so far this year. And welcome.
Thanks very much. I'll try and answer any questions you raise, but to be honest, with some of your questions, I actually had to look them up on Google to find out what some of the terms meant. Like lean production, I wasn't actually aware of what that was, so excuse me if I can't answer. There's nothing like a chance to make fun of your son, so happy birthday, Josh. 16 today, off to get your licence today, are we?
Please don't knock
It was quite cute.
Set up. So maybe sit there.
Oh, you didn't recognise it? That's my way of fishing. Now I've got to say that I'm actually feeling quite nervous. I present in front of a lot of people globally, and I never ever have a problem with presenting to people, but last night my son said to me, Dad, you can't swear at school. Apparently I put swear words in a lot of sentences, so it's $10 for if one slips out, so Josh will be pleased if it happens. But also he said, please don't make a dick of yourself, so I'll try my best not to. So let's dive into it in terms of my company. Did you guys get some sort of a background sheet on what we do to do your questions?
We looked at the website, yeah, and that was the background that we were doing, yeah, if you remember when we did the questions, yeah.
Cool.
Right.
We're a privately owned company, and if you could find out much about Mitchell Corp, you're probably doing very well. We're a very, very private company. We don't push what we do. We don't really advertise what we do. We try and keep that pretty much under wraps. The brands that we own is above, so we've got a range of brands from motels, hotels, holiday parks, apartments, Go Kiwi, which is an inbound tourism business, and bed and breakfast business. We've got, so in the franchising pool, about 320 properties, I think, at the moment. So literally every town in New Zealand, we've got a hotel or motel or whatever in there. Central Reservations office here in Christchurch. We both manage hotels and we also make investments in them. We operate both B2B and B2C, so business to business and business to consumer sites, and the franchising side of the business is, as I say, about 320 properties, but we have about 900 properties linked to Mitchell Corp in a live environment. Which means, and there's, I guess in total in New Zealand there would be about 1,700 commercial properties. So we're pretty well covered. Real-time last-minute availability. So if you've been travelling around at all, has anyone been on a holiday this summer and stayed in a hotel or a motel? Yep. Hard to get accommodation? Do you know? Okay. A lot of properties are running at about, at the moment around New Zealand, about 97-98% occupancy, so virtually full the whole month. So it has put enormous stress on the infrastructure in New Zealand. Just quickly running through the different brands, so Mainstay Hotels, and these are the sorts of hotels. That's one of ours in Rotorua, Dunedin, Hokitika, and that's one I'll talk a bit more about. The Golden Chain Motel brand. Motels are really still very popular. It's more of an old-fashioned sort of term. Motels are very hard to sell to the American market because when they think of a motel, they think you can get,
The guys at Motel 6.
Yeah. Yeah, motels in America have a really bad reputation, but it's actually a pretty good product. And like the hotel brand, we run from sort of 3 to 5 star. And that's just a typical motel. Is that Oamaru? We've got resorts and apartments. There's about 40 of those. And it's that sort of, so that's Blue Peaks in Queenstown. We've got a few of the apartment properties in Queenstown. B&B, everybody's heard of Airbnb. Airbnb obviously uses people's private houses. Does anyone's family operate an Airbnb? No? No, that's good. For me, they're the scourge of the industry. They're unregulated. They don't have to pay taxes like the rest of us. So I've got a particular dislike of Airbnb, and that's when I started this business, Select B&B, to try and go against them. We've got nowhere near the success or the volume, but it's worth a punt. And that's just a fairly typical sort of B&B up in Napier.
Just a matter of interest, with the people that are registered with you on their B&B,
Yeah.
would they also go with the
Airbnb?
Airbnb?
Yeah.
You haven't said you're going to use our service. Would you get anybody if you said you had to be exclusive with your service?
No, it's one of those things in business. You've got to sort of creep in on the side.
Yeah.
So we're late starters in that area.
Yeah.
So if we get to a certain volume point where we can dictate terms, then I will certainly say no Airbnb.
Right.
But at this stage, our volume's just not great enough compared to Airbnb.
Right.
So I think there was something came out today, and there are 37,000 properties in New Zealand registered on Airbnb, which is staggering. And I've got a couple of hundred, so.
Yeah. Okay.
So the business in general, so franchising. Do you understand what franchising is? Covered that? No? Yep. So same as like a McDonald's or whatever else, we own the brand, and each month the properties pay us a certain amount of money, and for that we give them sales and marketing support, admin support, what have you, out of head office. And we have brand managers that operate here in Christchurch who operate those brands. They do the promos through the year, liaise with the properties, recruit the properties, and then work with the sales team to try and drive volume into those properties. We've got a management investment side, so we manage some of the hotels in the group, and then on a personal level then we buy in or invest in various properties. Online accommodation, so business to business. We've got a fairly strong level of technology. So from the hotel or motel itself, our company is linked to that property. We can see everything that's in their system. That is then linked directly to the like a flight centre or something like that. And so it's a seamless transaction, lifetime. And that sort of IT, I mean, it's a pretty expensive proposition. If somebody's looking to build something like that, it's probably you'd spend at least sort of $3-4 million to build a system like that nowadays. And on that, as I say, we're selling online about 600 to 1,000 rooms a day. And whilst we take franchise fees, we also take a margin on every booking. So we take 15% of the sell price on every transaction for that. Online accommodation, we do B2C. We do it really, really badly. If you looked at any of our websites, they're pretty crap. Consequently, we don't do much sales-wise. It's an area that, as a business, we've got to look at ourselves and go, we've failed miserably. So we're relaunching that side of the business, and we've got a new offering coming out in July of this year.
Yep. And B2C stands for
Business to consumer.
business to consumer. Yeah, you all got that.
Good job.
Yeah, good. Okay.
And then we've got inbound tourism companies. So if you or your family go offshore and you book through a travel agency, those are the sorts of people who are our customers offshore. So has anyone ever been on a bus tour? No? You have?
Yeah, Queensland.
Okay, cool. Where were you? Same.
I was up in North Island.
Oh yeah. Did a bit of a bus tour. Cool. So those sorts of companies that we deal with, although we bring the travellers in from overseas, so our company is also what they call a ground handler, which means that for a company in, say, the UK, we handle all of the ground arrangements in New Zealand, which is all the accommodation, transport, what have you, which is a pretty lucrative piece of business. Or we do independent travellers, and if in our world, independent travellers in FIT, which is a free independent traveller. So if I talk about FITs, that's what it is. So just going through the questions. Sophie, who's Sophie?
Yeah.
Sophie. So in terms of making the business unique, I think for us it's really the technology. We would be about the only company in New Zealand that's got that spread of connectivity between the properties and the agents. So as I said, we're live in the property environment, the hotels and what have you. But on the other side, like if you go into a flight centre in Australia and they're booking accommodation which is in our group, it's live time in our system. You know, that's why we're sort of a behind the scenes company in that sense. I think also being New Zealand owned is a big advantage. A lot of the companies that operate in New Zealand are not New Zealand owned. The disadvantage for us is that we have to pay the GST on everything, and if you're a foreign-owned company doing exactly what we do, but based offshore, you have less GST exposure. So GST, goods and services tax. It used to be a level playing field, but the government changed that about 6 years ago, so that if you were New Zealand domiciled, you had to pay this tax. And for us, it's probably cost us bottom line about $400,000 a year. So it's quite a big decision to stay in this country. We're a one-stop shop, so we can cater for all types of accommodation. What time's the class finished?
Yeah, 2:10. Sorry.
2:10.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm new to this.
I'll just try and keep to the timelines. That's all.
Yeah.
I think the other thing for us as a business is that broad base of revenue. So tourism is a very cyclical business. There are times, there are some years where there's hardly any traffic coming through, and you can really lose a lot of money very quickly. But because we've got a broad base, we do all that stuff. We've got we contract to corporates, to conferences, what have you. So we try and keep an ongoing flow of revenue. Because, you know, businesses like ours are really bloody expensive to run. So you've got to have good cash flow or a good amount of income all the time. Alex. G'day. So that's one of the things, and I guess the question is, why do you think people travel to New Zealand? Anyone? Why would you come to New Zealand for a holiday from overseas? No?
Yeah, come on.
Beautiful landscapes.
Okay.
Yep.
There you go.
Exactly. And?
I was about to say, like, beautiful scenery.
Yep. Big part of it. And like when we go overseas with our families, part of it is to enjoy the culture, and so the Maori aspect toward tourism encompasses both those things, because they're about guardianship, protection, preservation. And we internationally we sell ourselves as 100% pure. That's the Tourism New Zealand tagline for this country, and you know, do we honestly believe that we are 100% pure? I don't. I think it's a real risk, because New Zealand markets itself on being this clean environment, and we're not. I mean, you know, how many rivers are there that you can't swim in and what have you? So to answer your question, that's a very important part of our message offshore that I don't think we actually deliver on it at all. This is more about what our business is about, and it's hospitality and kindness. And one of my first jobs in tourism, I used to wash dishes, and I remember one of my first general managers saying to me that tourism is actually a very easy business. Think of someone coming to your house, you give them, if the chairs on the dining table are broken, you give them the best seat. If the plates are chipped, give them the best plate, that sort of thing. So that's all that hospitality is. It's about giving somebody a fantastic experience, and that's something which is very ingrained for me. Tamara. So in terms of advantages, disadvantages of owning your own business. So in the 90s, I used to work for a large corporate company. I was country manager for a group. We had about $60 million turnover and 400 or 500 staff, and it was awful. It was Singaporean owned. They would ring at all hours of the day. If something wasn't right, then you got an earful, all that sort of thing. So the advantage for me to move on to going into my own business was a level of freedom to get out of the corporate environment. I think the corporate environment suits a lot of people really well, and there's obviously some very well-paid people in the corporate world. If you're on your own, you may not get paid as much, but you have a lot more freedom in your life, or I think you do. The other thing for me is the creativity of owning your own business. So at the moment, with our brands, I think we could do a boutique hotel brand. So boutique hotels tend to be more sort of upmarket, a little bit special. I think they'd be quite fun. So for me, creating those things is half the fun. I'm very poor at delivering on some of these things. So I can create a vision and be creative, but I need people to go and actually make it happen. And the downside of having your own business is absolutely the risk. You can lose a huge amount of money really quickly. If you're not managing your business well, or you've gone into market that's not good. And personally, we've had some good successes, but we've had some dismal failures. We tried to go into Australia about a decade ago, and a lot of companies go into Australia and fail. And I'll put my hand up, we're one of them. We lost a couple of $1 million on that venture. Within 12 months, we lost that amount of money, so that was that hurt. And the other, I don't know if it's a downside or upside, I love the team that I've built in my main office here in Christchurch, but with that, you get a lot of loyalty, but as the business owner, you feel a lot of responsibility. Like the decisions I make and the things that I do affect their lives, because if I cock it up and make a decision like Australia, which costs a lot of money, and the business fails, their income stops. So they can no longer afford to pay their mortgages, or they're unemployed, and so on. So it's a bit of a downside to owning your own business. You've actually got to think about the people that rely on you. Structure. If I can just give you a quick, is that a whiteboard? So I'll just give you a fairly typical. Everyone's stayed in a hotel before? Yep. So the thing with hotels is they're very staff rich. They're expensive to run. We can have up to 40-50% of our revenue go in staff costs. So structure in a hotel is very important. It's almost like a military operation. So at the top is the general manager of the hotel. Then we break it down into divisions. So you've got the rooms side, which is obviously the rooms sales, food. So that's your restaurants, what have you. Beverage. Your bars. A lot of hotels have you know, house bar, but they might also have a pub or something like that beside it. You've got on-site sales marketing people, and you'll have admin. Then underneath that, then you've got the different departments. So rooms would look after front office, so that's the people that check you in. You've got the housekeeping. Food has the kitchen, the restaurant staff. And is that really easy to read, that beautiful writing as I'm scribbling away?
Better than mine.
You've got conferencing, and so on and so on. So for a hotel, let's say like the, it's just reopening the Distinction Hotel. Early 90s I ran that hotel, and it's 178 rooms, and we had about 120 staff for 178 rooms. So that's what I'm saying, that they're quite staff rich, and it costs a lot of money to look after them. In terms of the advantage of using that sort of structure, most hotels are pretty mirror image each other. So if you go into a hotel, that's the sort of structure that you're looking at. So it makes it very easy for people to move around hotels. And one of the things about hotel stuff, who wants to go and do an overseas experience, an OE? Anyone? When they leave school? Yeah. A lot of people get into hospo, and because the structures are pretty much the same wherever you go, it makes your skills very transferable. So when I started in hotels, did dishes, then waited on tables and all that sort of stuff. And what it meant is that I could move very easily in between hotels because the structures are so similar. So that's a big advantage. And it's an advantage from an employer's perspective because it's easier to get staff because they know where they sort of fit in the structure. It's also, hotels are a 24-hour per day living beast. So there has to be a lot of structure, rules, procedures, processes. And I know we're coming up to a section on that. Because every single day, no matter how the staff are feeling about life, you're pissed off about something or whatever, you've got to deliver the same experience to the guest, because they don't care you've had a bad day. They've come to the hotel, they want to enjoy themselves. So this whole structure and processes and procedures is vital to our business. What else? And also, and same thing in terms of the delivery of service to the clients, it's having clear roles throughout. Disadvantage of using that sort of structure. I think the risk of any business that is quite structured is that there's less initiative taken and shown by staff. It's a bit like, when you're learning for an exam, and it's, what's the term, is it rote learning? You may not actually understand what you're learning, and that's the problem with heavy structures, is that you don't understand how the whole hotel may work. And I think also if there's lots of rules and regulations, you'll probably take less initiative, because this is my job, full stop. Does that make sense? Yeah. And Connor. Who's Connor?
Connor's away.
Connor's away?
Yeah.
I don't have to answer his question. That's cool. He said to use different organisational structures for different parts of the company, and yeah, absolutely. So the hotels, as I say, are quite structured, but in like my office, it's a much flatter structure, and the staff in my office are probably more senior, and they're given more rope to go and do whatever they want, or more budget. Managers, leaders. Oki, who's Oki? Yeah, it's an interesting one. Sorry, I've jumped around a bit. I'm trying to get it to flow in terms of my mindset, so I'm not following the way that it was sent to me. So apologies about that. So in terms of leadership style, yeah, absolutely. It's the same. My corporate career, I worked for a very autocratic company, which I hated because I didn't have the freedom to express myself or do things in the hotel that I wanted. I think laissez-faire is you can't have in a hotel, and again because the end product that we deliver to a guest has to be the same every single day. So if we went to more of a laissez-faire, it leaves too much scope for things to go wrong or that we're not delivering. So I personally think a mix of styles is pretty essential in a hotel, which sort of answers Faith's question, I guess. In terms of what style of management do I use, I think that mine is somewhere between democratic and laissez-faire within my office in Christchurch. People are clear on so my job as CEO is to set a vision or paint a picture of where we could go. And that's what I was talking about earlier. I mean, you know, I see my job as a creative job. So I give it to people to actually go and build structures around it to make it actually work. If we're talking about leadership versus management, I think I'm quite a good leader, but I'm an incredibly poor manager. I don't like detail. Oh, thanks for that. I'm no good at detail, and I've got people in my office who are good at detail because it's just something I'm not good at. And you know, all you guys probably play sports of one sort or another. You know on the sports field where you're strong and where you're not, and it's the same in business. You know, where do I fit into this team? And you've got to have. It is like sports. I mean, you've got to have people in positions all over the field to make the whole team work and succeed. The most important thing is that you actually pull together and deliver. So yeah, as I say, in my office it's relatively democratic toward laissez-faire. In terms of the hotels that report to our company, it's a lot more prescriptive. So you know, there are set objectives. Have you guys covered budgets? Building budgets? No? So every year it's the financial plan for the business. So, okay, well this is how much revenue we're expecting, this is how much profit we're expecting, and the properties actually have to deliver on that. So, and then you've got to be a lot more prescriptive because at the end of the day, you've got to make a profit. If you're not making the money that you should be, you're going to go out of business. So that management style therefore is more prescriptive. And Jacob, who's?
Does this type of successful leadership style appear in your different hotels?
Yeah, definitely. And the reason being, and I'll talk about hotels, but I think it applies to any organisation. You look at a business and you think of it as a physical thing. I don't. A business to me is not a physical thing. It's something that can evolve and change. It has a feel to it. And that comes from the people that staff it. You know, you've probably gone to some businesses and it might be a dairy, it might be a cafe, and it feels good, like there's good service, or you're made to feel welcome. that's what I mean in terms of businesses having a feeling about them. So if you go into a warehouse, it's purely you're in there to buy something on the cheap, because there's not that much interaction or service or whatever. But if you're going to a hotel, you'll pay more for a better experience. Or if you guys go to, has anyone got a favourite restaurant around town? Yeah, what is it? Yeah. And you love going there because? Oh, that's, yeah. At your age, a very good reason. So it's that things people are looking for, things that make them happy, and that's what I think any organisation is about or should strive for, and certainly for a hotel. And that's why different leadership styles work differently. So if I've got a hotel that's failing, and believe you me, you can lose a lot of money very bloody quickly in hotels. If we've got one that's failing, you put a GM in who is going to be tough, pull everyone back in line, staff-wise, and get the room rate up or the occupancy up or whatever it needs to be. Whereas if it's going quite nicely and you're trying to create a environment of friendliness, then you put a different style of GM in. Procedures, I'm just going to race through this. Most of the policies that affect business in a major way are set by government. So I talked earlier about the GST, and they penalised us as a New Zealand business for operating in New Zealand on GST, which I think sucks. But obviously there's also a lot of HR policies dictated by the government. Health and safety is a big one. Obviously taxation, which we all love. So the government actually have a major bearing on everything we do, policy-wise. How do customers benefit from policies, procedures? In terms of what we do within the hotel and that sort of structure, hopefully it's the experience that they have. Has anyone ever used TripAdvisor? Yeah? Seen it? Know about it? Yeah? Yes? Yep. So TripAdvisor is probably one of the key feedback tools in our industry, and that in terms of the policies that we have in place, and when I talk about outcomes, what you're hoping for is that publicly people will say, actually, the hotel was great. Because if they say the hotel was crap, then you won't get customers. It's as simple as that. Liam, who's Liam? So cashback, money back, we try not to be brutally honest. We have cancellation policies in place, and most companies you'll find that there's if you cancel too close to the date of stay, we charge a cancellation fee, and that's to try and make up ground. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? If it's an industry norm. If other companies started dropping it, we probably would, but it's an industry norm, so it's probably, because quite often we resell the rooms anyway, so it's probably not a great thing. But the feedback, the money back policy for most companies is around the cancellation. If somebody has a really bad experience, I'm trying to think where it was, somewhere we had a team of softballers out from Canada or America, I think. They stayed in one of our properties in Tauranga, and people in the room next door had a huge party, and it was a disaster. The people next door got drunk, damaged their rental vehicle, da da da. You can imagine what it was like. So that was one where we gave them their money back because they had an awful experience. And again, it's that feedback thing. You don't need that sort of feedback on TripAdvisor. Who's Josh? I know Josh standing, the other Josh, good. Employees that don't follow policies, talk with them. go through a mentoring sort of thing. If they're still breaking policy, then we start the warning process, and ultimately, if they keep going, then you just sack them. In this hotel structure, which is very structured, you can't have disruptors, because again, I'll keep going back to it, you've got to deliver the same experience every day, the same great experience. So if you've got a disruptor, you've got to get them out, is the bottom line. Procedures that are most expensive to implement. I'd say nowadays a lot of it's around health and safety. When I came to the school today, I had to, on the iPad thing, sign in and get a visitor's thing, which I've lost. We all put a lot of money into this health and safety, whether it is a good thing or bad thing. From a business owner's perspective, I think we're a little bit over the top at the moment. Like in some of the kitchens now, we put signs up in the kitchen to say the ovens are hot. And to me, it's just like, really? Do we have to tell the chefs the oven's bloody hot? So, parts of it I think are a bit nonsensical, but they are important. We did a building here in Christchurch, and one of the builders fell off and landed on those steel tubes that stick up out of the, for concreting and stuff. Fell off and landed on it and went straight through his stomach. And we had a full health and safety inspection afterwards. He lived, but it wasn't great, and we had to prove that we had given the right environment health and safety wise. Otherwise, we would have been prosecuted because he fell off the edge and stabbed himself. Finance. I said before, I'm not a great manager, and I'm not very good on detail, but finance I'm almost anal on. And if you go into business, you have to be. It's just absolutely vital. So, whose will? So break-even analysis, that's everything in business. Josh and I, years ago, I was trying to teach him about business and making money. So we started buying watches off eBay and bringing them in. Josh would keep the records in terms of how much we paid, then we'd flog them off on Trade Me and try to make quite good money. But it was just that, and that's what it's all about. Everything in business, you're there to make money. You're there to be creative. You're there to employ people, grow with people. But the bottom line, if you don't have bottom line, you're out. And as I've said before, particularly in our industry, it's very, very easy to lose money. So we're looking at buying a hotel at the moment. So I'm going 50-50 with the guy. So at the moment, last year this property lost about $300,000. So from a break-even analysis, I've gone through their books. We've bought it, we take it on the 1st of April. So we went through the books, looked at the profit and loss, see why they lost the money. You may not have started on profit and losses yet. Looked at what its potential is, looked at the sales history. Who are they selling to? How much are they actually selling? Could they grow their sales? So when I'm looking at a business in trouble, I'm always looking at what's the potential, how can we actually grow it? This one has the advantage, it's got a liquor land. And I might be repeating myself, you have covered cash flows yet or no? Yep. Cash flow is everything. You can have on the books, your business is going fantastic, and you're making huge profit, and you say to your accountant, why have I got no money in the bank? And it's probably because your debtors are high and people owe you money. So businesses that are doing well can actually go out of business because they don't have enough cash flow. But this one with the liquor land, it's high sales. I think it does. It's doing about 3.5 million a year, and which is pretty even income over the whole year. So there's always going to be cash there to pay the bills. We've had a look at it. I reckon it should do about 200 or 300k in profit each year. So grab it, but it all goes back to break even. Can I make more money out of it? So when making financial decisions, that sort of covers that in terms of what documents do we look at. So you've got to look at the P&L, bank records. I look at the sales history and who they're selling to in our industry, because I understand what they should be selling, and obviously the balance sheet. Are financial statements a big benefit? 100% they are. And I'm just going to run through a couple shortly. And Liam, who's Liam? Yep. In terms of keeping financial documents, again, it's for our beloved government or IRD, tax department. Does anyone's parents work at IRD? If they do, I love the IRD. So we've got a requirement to keep our records for 7 years. With the number of P&Ls we produce, plus all the hotel records, and in fact just our own sales records from our office, because we're tuning through about 300,000 bookings a year. We rent about 300 metres of space just to keep all the documents in. So, which is about, it's an average size house, and that's all bloody paper. Can you see those numbers? Yeah. So just in terms of the sorts of documents, this is for one of the hotels this week, weekend in 25th Feb. So this is sort of information I get weekly for each of the hotels. So I'm looking at how much revenue they did this week. So they did 135k of rev. Budget was 132, so they're 2.5 up. The month to date's going all right. They're at the 20k, 19,859 up on budget. And as I say, it was said earlier, the big thing in hotels is the human resource cost. So in this case, for the week, we churned through near on $29,000 of wages. For the month to the 25th, we've done 111. So wages are up a bit, but so is revenue. So then I'm looking at the percentage. 22.5% cost is wage. Sorry, that's the budget. We're actually coming at 21.2, so that's a tick for this GM. But we still went back on, so month to date, the front office cost for every room sold cost $11.38. They've sold 1,300 rooms so far this month. The budget's $10.75, so it's about 90 cents a room, too much. So that's, and the way I look at it, I'm going, well, that you've just wasted about $1,300. So why is that? Same with housekeeping. $15.47 to clean a room. Budget's $13.96, so $1.50. So it's about $2.22, $2.3. So between those two areas, let's call it about 3.5k. The GM is in my mind wasted. So the question mark is on that. And then it just gives us that sort of analysis on sales as well. So budget-wise, they should be, every room that goes through, they should be selling about $15 of booze. They've sold $13.87. So the question is, what are you doing to sell more, basically? Does that make sense? Yep.
Could I just ask a question on that then?
Yeah.
I don't know if time-wise, but your expenses for getting the rooms done is the variance, but of course it was $1, close to $1.50. Is that typical of the fact that your you're selling more than you're expected, so therefore you have to use overtime, or what would mean, your occupancy is high.
Yeah.
So when you get up to that high occupancy, is it taking staff so much longer, or?
No, we've written in most of our employment contracts, we've written overtime out.
Okay.
So a lot of that is just purely that they weren't cleaning quick enough.
Okay.
Normally, it's a strange thing in hotels. The cost to clean a room is normally less when the hotel's busy.
Oh, really?
When it's less busy, the costs go up.
Sure.
And that's because they slow down.
Okay. Right.
One of those weird things.
But you've got to have a certain amount of staffing anyway, so that's
Yeah.
spread over. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And in this one, so then we drill down further, so we actually go through department by department. So if I'm looking at food, in this one, the only thing that struck me is, we measure everything in our business. We know we've got a density of 1.9, so that means on average 1.9 people stay in each room. So we know how many people are actually in the hotel. So if you've got people in the hotel, you're always going, well, what else can I sell? And, like restaurant. So we actually aim for about 65% of house guests to go in for breakfast. This hotel's only achieving 60, so that's quite a big variance. So in that case, we will incentivise front office and go, if you can pre-sell breakfasts, then that's a good thing, and we'll give you a buck or whatever per pre-sold breakfast to try and grow that volume. And this is going to be impossible to see, sorry. In fact, I can't even read it from up here, so you've got no show. Are you going to use these?
Oh, well, we could share, if you're happy, we could share that.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, so they can look at it later, but just the gist of what?
Okay, so this is a fairly typical sort of hotel profit and loss. So revenues coming out of rooms, food, beverage, sundry, but this was a bit of a crack, and I've actually rung the GM and had a go at him. He did more revenue, so he's done about 5k more revenue over last year, and the department profit line, I think it was down about, I can't read it there, but it's about 13 or 14k down. If you've grown your revenue, why on earth are you delivering less in the bottom line? And this is the thing, and in any business, you've just got to always be going back to the bottom line, like what is happening? In this case, one of his big issues, we have a thing there called yield. So you have your occupancy, so 100% down, and your average room rates, that's how much money you get per room sold. If you multiply the two, so occupancy times average room rate, that gives you the what we call a yield, and it's for a hotel it's an efficiency factor. It tells you how many dollars per available room that you get. So you can have a really high average room rate and no occupancy, or it's that supply demand curve. So in this case, what they've done is they've gone high on their room rate, lost occupancy, and the multiplication means that the yield, the efficiency factor, is actually dropping over last year. Sorry, that's quite a complicated explanation, but all business is the same. Supply demand. Where's the optimum point? Where's the premium point? And this one's not hitting it.
So, and with that, then they've got less people to spend money in the bar.
Exactly.
And so the revenue did go up, but they've got less. The result is less people doing it. So less money in the bar, less money in breakfast in the morning, or
Less
cafe.
punters.
Yep.
So less to sell to.
Right.
I won't worry about that. As I say, I had to look up lean production. Cassandra?
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to look it up. I didn't know what it meant. For hotels, it doesn't really apply. It's more a manufacturing type term. I tried in my mind to apply it to the kitchens, but I was kind of struggling anyway in terms of the efficiency. So it's probably less a hospo thing than maybe some other areas. Coco. Well, it's a really easy one. So it's a scale of economy almost. Tour groups, you're going to have about 40 people on tour in a bus. Typical 18 days around New Zealand. So our inbound business, on one tour, they should clear about 20-25k of margin or profit. If they did one person and did it on 18 days, they'd make about $450 profit. And believe it or not, it takes almost the same amount of time to book a tour group as opposed to an individual. So tour groups, love them. Great way to make money. Joshua, would you like to read your question? Nothing. What kind of production method do we use? As I say, nowadays most of ours is automated. So we're live with both our clients and the hotels themselves. So real-time interface. Our central res nowadays, so we're processing a lot more work volume-wise, but doing that with less people. So as a business, it's a great outcome. So I'm rushing now because I'm running out of time. And economies of scale, absolutely. Hamish? Yep. Yeah. The example before, that's the economy of scale. And when we contract the properties, we can do it in bulk. So we just write out, we've got a program that writes out to all the properties, advises them what the rates are going to be for the next year. For wholesale business, so again, it's just that whole economy of scale. Corporate social, Sandra. Oh no, what's happening there?
Yeah. I think if.
Yeah, I've done that one.
Yep. You've got the big front. Yeah.
So I'll just quickly do the corporate social. Ethan, it was. What do you consider your social responsibility as a large NZ business? Yeah, I'm a very proud New Zealander. We want to contribute. We give to a lot of charities, and we range from, we sell water at the motels, bottled water, and all the money goes to yellow-eyed penguins. A lot of our hotels have pubs as well. So we've got pub charity money to give away. You know, sports teams, you might apply for that. That's one of our places. We manage some of the licensing trusts in New Zealand, and they'd give away, you know, 400,000, 500,000, 600,000 a piece in terms of charity. Specific ones, yep, absolutely we do, and we're quite focused on eco, and that goes back to what I was saying before. My concern for tourism in New Zealand is that we promise this 100% pure, clean message, we don't deliver. So we give naturally to eco projects to try and help the environment. When we give money away, that through pub charity, that changes each year depending on who applies. But our stock standard charities, they stay the same. We are launching a new business in July of this year. You'll see it on TV. We're doing quite a big TV campaign on it. And that business will all be around you, the public, travelling, and us using some of the money that you pay for your accommodation to go to charity. So we think that's going to be quite a big deliverer of money to New Zealand charities. So look out for that this July. And the benefits, we're supporting them. That's quick. The benefits are for Mitchell Corp that we're seen in a good light. So commercially it's good, but personally it's a nice thing. And downfall, there's no downfalls in helping other people.
Okay. Right.
Thank you.
Yes.
Just on behalf